And welcome everyone to our Move to Panama webinar. This is being recorded in case a person's not able to be here for the whole meeting, or in case a person missed the meeting. We always like to record and get those up on YouTube. Be looking for the Move to Panama webinars and the series of them out on YouTube. I want to welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Daniel Daves, and I'm here with my friend tonight, Andrew Foote. We are both in Boquete, Panama. Andrew, can you hear me? Okay, well, he's not responding at this time. Maybe we'll get him to respond in just a second. Hold on. Okay, Andrew, how about now?
Yeah.
Okay, got just a little bit of a feedback or an echo there. Might just be because of loudspeakers on your end. Not sure. But it's good to have you with us, Andrew, and good to have all of you who are coming in from various parts of the world. The internet is such a wonderful thing. We can meet simultaneously in the same room, although we're all in our own living room somewhere else in the world. I want to welcome you again. We're going to go through this evening a particular segment. Our last webinar was really a great informative webinar. We talked about immigration and the legal capacity of a person to move out to another country, particularly Panama, which I believe is one of easiest and greatest nations right now to be able to move into. They have rolled out the red carpet to 27 different nations and said, come on in. If you're from that nation, you can come in with minimal paperwork and you are invited to live here the rest of your life. What a neat deal. Probably the best in the world right now, unless you want to spend 400,000 or 500,000 for an alternate passport out in the Caribbean somewhere. So today, though, we have a little bit different turn we're going to make. Before we get right into that, I want to give you a few slides here on Andrew and myself. First of all, I'm just showing you my website at drdanieldaves.com. I have a couple of things, a newsletter, a monthly information newsletter. I've also had a couple of dreams back in 2008. I believe they were from God, and one has been fulfilled. The other is in the middle of being fulfilled right now. If you go out to this website and you just come onto it, it will automatically play dream number 2 that I had in 2008. You see the diver here under in a cave. You will go with us in that dream to see exactly what I saw, feel exactly what I felt in that dream, and it'll give you an opportunity. I believe God gives us these things so that we can correctly analyze them and then make movements based on what God's information is. The good thing is He gives us what I call HSI information, Holy Spirit intelligence. It's kind of like the U.S. CIA knows what's going on back behind the closed doors. Well, your God knows what's going on behind everyone's closed doors, and He gives information to His servants, to His people. Why? Because He loves us. That's the way it is, and He wants us to be 2 steps ahead of any enemy and any darkness would ever try to come on the scene. Okay, and as you go in there, you'll see I've also got a couple of books. One is this Compass Guide, a strategic life planner, and I believe today that this is important more than ever. The Compass Guide 1-year life planning strategy guide, that along with 15 television programs that you can stream from the website, that program will help you find out who you are. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, and I was talking to Andrew earlier about this very thing. So many people say, well, I just feel like I just got to make a move. But if you don't know who God's called you to be, you don't know the gold, the silver, the precious stones that are down inside of you, this next move you make could be such a critical error. You could be on the wrong side of the planet, because if you know who you are, then you will bloom wherever you're planted. But if you don't know who you are and you make movements, especially radical movements, let's say to a nation like Panama, then you could be in dire straits, you and your family. So I really recommend you find out, first of all, who you are and learn how to set 1, 5, 10, 20, and 50-year goals according to God's dream for your life, not your own, but God's dream. You do that, you're going to live in safety, and you are going to be very, very fulfilled in your life. Also, want to show you Andrew's website, Strength for the Journey. That's strength number 4, thejourney.com. And Andrew, can I ask, is it boquete.help@gmail.com?
That's it. Yes, it is.
As you can see here, guys, I've got a new a little red arrow here, boquete.help@gmail.com. We have been inundated with emails and phone calls to the point where sometimes it takes us weeks to get back to people. And Andrew has got some wonderful help that has stepped up to the plate and said, let us help and serve. And so this email is strategically for you. If you have a question and you can't seem to get a hold of myself or Andrew, you email this, and this is the helpline right here that will get you straight to either Andrew or myself or someone really, really close to us, where we can get that information back to you. We know time is critical. We know information is valuable, and we don't want to miss the opportunity to get you the information. So
That's right.
boquete.help@gmail.com. Andrew, you want to take it for a moment and share a couple things that are on your heart?
Sure. I know that this is a very critical time right now, like what Daniel just saying, that there's many people out there trying to get information, and time is critical. And so we don't want to delay in information, getting that information to you. I have a friend of mine, David Williams, and he is helping me every day in the office. He's trying to help with this backup of a load of people that are trying to get information. They're trying to get their trips scheduled here, and time is very critical for many people right now. So we're here to help you in whatever ways we can. The Lord has blessed us to get here earlier, but it has a great responsibility, I believe, upon each of us that it's not, we didn't get out and get here just for ourselves. It's for others too, and so we're trying to fulfill that mandate that we feel on our heart.
Amen. Amen. One thing that I thought we would jump into this evening, Andrew, and I know that you've got a lot of wisdom on this. There's multiple ways we can go, but I've had so many people asking me, how much does it really cost to move to Panama or to another nation, and how much does it cost to live in these countries? We hear all the grandiose sales pitches coming from people who may be trying to sell real estate or something, and they'll say, you can live in Panama for 25 cents on the dollar, or one of the greatest ones I saw was live in Costa Rica for $900 a month. And I'm not sure where you would do that in Costa Rica, but supposedly, maybe under a bridge at the beach or something. But we want to discuss for just a moment here, what does it take? What would a true budget be for living in Costa Rica? Or, I'm sorry, Costa Rica or Panama. I came from Costa Rica, so I'm versed there as well. Um, I wrote down just a few of these questions, Andrew. I'm not sure if you can see them.
I
Uh,
do, yes.
but maybe before we get into those, maybe we could talk about costs of, let's say, the actual move, immigration, general costs, and maybe shipping of a container full of furniture, something like that. Can you give us some details?
Yes, the rent can go anywhere. You can find maybe a small apartment um, for maybe $350, $400 a month, possibly. I know somebody just wanted to look at a home up near the gymnasium in the Los Naranjos area, Boquete, and it was renting for $400 a month. So there are places that are less expensive, but there's probably going to be a little bit of a standard, uh, possibly if you're normally living in a gated community and all that, you're going to have to pay probably closer to $1,500 a month to find a place in that area. But there is a range of price range of living expenses as far as a home. And of course, that's going to be probably one of your top places. So they're going to be anywhere from 400, um, maybe $700 for a smaller location, maybe closer to $1,500 for a nicer location, possibly in a gated community. And it may even go up from there, maybe a couple, 2 grand even. And
You
another thing too that's going to
want
be kind of expensive is just a car rental. I rented a car for a while when we first came, but the car rental, um, you can get a car for $30 a day on a more of a long term, like month by month, maybe day by day, maybe $35 a day. If you have the ability to possibly sell your car, if it's and get a good price for it there, and bring it here, that's a possibility. It's going to cost you with taxes and shipping, and it may cost you $2,500 to $4,000 to bring a car in, and you might find the price of cars that much above the price of a car that you'd have to pay in the United States. It may be $3,000 or $4,000 more than what you'd have to pay for the same car in the United States, and that's what the difference is. What it costs you to get that car here. So those are some options that you're going to have to look at when you're getting a car. Daniel, what's your experience as far as cars and homes too?
Well, I think exactly what you're saying. First of all, I would really recommend if you're moving to this area, any area, to not necessarily buy. I know a lot of North Americans love to come in and say, "I'm ready to buy," but buying here is completely different. If you could get a loan at a bank here, you're going to end up paying at least 30% down if you could get a loan here. And typically, banks want to see some activity. They want to see some faithfulness in this country before they actually hand cash over to you. But they want 30% down. And typically, if you are 72 years old, you cannot get a loan. So if you're 60, you can get a 12-year loan. If you're 50, you can get a 22-year loan. So 72 is the cutoff point where you're no longer loanable in the country. So depending on your age, you can look back and see how long that loan could be. On the other hand, from North America, we are so set and so immersed in loans and debt. I just want to make a personal recommendation that if you make a move to another country, you might want to consider trying to live debt-free. We made the break from debt. We said no to debt. We went to war against debt in our lives, and thank God we got out of debt. And there's no better feeling knowing that we owe no man anything but love and then some taxes when I die. But getting out of debt is so important. And I have to say this, my friends, if you have been a believer for any amount of time in the United States, you know God has been speaking to his people. I was born again in 1981. And immediately after that, God started speaking to me. And through churches and evangelists and everywhere I turned, the Lord was saying, get out of debt. And I refused and I disobeyed and I lived in debt, and it hurt me. It hurt my family. It hurt my children's future. I was on the brink of bankruptcy a couple of times. Debt is a wonderful thing until you can't make the payment. And I'm just here to tell you, I really believe God wants us as believers to make a break from the doctrines of debt. That is the very doctrine that's going to sink the country that we all gave our lives for and have lived in for so long. The doctrine of debt, if it follows you in your future life, it's going to sink you just like it sunk everyone else. So I would just say, when it comes to a home, don't run out and say, I'm going to get a loan and I'm going to buy that house. I recommend that you rent first. Now get this, there's 14 microclimates in Boquete alone. This little hidden sleepy town up here just off of the Baru volcano, hidden in the valley, up in the mountains. There's 14 different climates, and from one fence line to the other, there may be a difference between 200 inches a year of rain and 80 inches of rain. Um, there's differences in the layout of the land, the water capacity of the town, and there's a few areas in Boquete that run out of water during the dry season, and you don't want to necessarily run out of water for 6 weeks at your home just because you didn't think about, or learn about the right microclimate. So I really recommend run in, get a place to rent, and start looking around and decide where you'd like to maybe make home for a longer term. Um, Man, there's nothing wrong or nothing worse than having the right house in the wrong location. Nothing worse than that at all. So I'd really recommend that. Come in and look at renting. If when we get into the webinar concerning how to make money in Panama, how to invest in Panama, I'll just throw this out. Rentals are going to be a huge deal in Panama. And if you like building or you like buying and renting out places for people like my family, myself and my family, who need a place to rent, you're going to have your hands full because this place is already booming and the crowds haven't even started coming yet. So just a little side note there. Andrew, I wanted to talk for just a moment about the actual move down. Um, we've got a couple of great attorneys that we all like to work with, and that those attorneys are on the webinar called Immigration and Legal, and we invite you to go take a look at that. But Andrew, basically, can you remember what it costs, let's say for an individual or for a couple, or let's say a family of four, a mom, dad, and a couple of kids? What does it cost basically for the friendly nations or a retired immigration status? You have
I
some
just was
general.
with a couple. We were talking about a price of what it would cost them if they went friendly nation visa
what it would cost them
versus
if they went
pensionado.
friendly nation visa.
And so I'm just going to talk, just say a couple. They discovered it would cost them about half of as much money to get the pensionado as it would be the friendly nation visa. And so if you can use the pensionado, it is less expensive. Plus, you have some bonuses that go with that, that you can get a container here and not pay the taxes on it. And so also you can get a car. I think it's two cars every 2 years. I'm not real sure. I can't remember those numbers there, Daniel. But there's also some benefits on tax reduction or costs that the government would charge you on the pensionado. Those are benefits that you do get with the pensionado. There's some lawyers that may charge anywhere around $2,000 or so, roughly. I believe for the visa. Do you have kind of a price from? Is it Lourdes that you've mentioned, or is another lady, Yvonne? I think.
Well, I think typically, let's say for let's say for a couple, you're probably between $1,500 and $2,500. A
Yes.
family or it's going to go up somewhat there, depending on which modules you want. And but let me say this: whatever the cost is, in my opinion, it's negligible, if that's the word, because you are being given an invitation from a sovereign nation that's growing. It's in a growth spurt and has been for a decade. And this nation is poised to continue to grow, even when Western nations are failing. And this country is rolling out the red carpet and saying this: you can come retire here. We'll give you a card that allows you to stay here the rest of your life and do anything you want to do except vote. And if you're retired, we will give you 25% off airline tickets, 20% off of utilities. We'll give you 20% off, 15 or 20% off restaurants. We'll give you percentages off of every dollar you spend. We'll make it worth your time to be here. What an awesome opportunity. And then with the friendly nations visa, they're giving you a permanent residency where they hand you a card and say, for the rest of your life, you can call Panama home for the rest of your life. Whether you choose to live here or not, your invitation is permanent. And not only that, it comes with a corporation that allows you to do business. If you decide that you would like to maybe get a job in the future, you can also buy the module, which is simply a job. Um, it's a job certificate. What do they call it, Andrew? A work permit.
That's just a work permit?
Yeah, so
A
you can
work
get a
permit?
work permit. By the way, Andrew, I'm going to turn on your web computer microphone right now. So if you can pull that cell phone back, I'm going to give you a better sound. Okay.
Okay, okay.
There we go. So basically, you're getting a lifetime opportunity as this world is getting smaller, and the world literally is beginning to think international. Business is international. Jobs, you have to think for a job. You have to think international these days. For everything that's coming in the next 25 years, you cannot think I'm stuck in my little town and that's the way it's going to be, because this world is getting so small. Languages are merging, nations are merging, and you need international capacity to travel and live. Panama is opening the door wide open. So if it's a couple $1,000s or whatever it is, my recommendation is it's the best investment you could make. There was a lady and her 19-year-old daughter who were here a couple of weeks ago, and they were thinking, well, she's going to go to college. She's going to spend a lot of money on a college degree in the United States, which just very well may not pan out. She may be working at Starbucks after she gets this very expensive degree. But and her mom is planning to move down here, and I said, well, if I were you, I would get her that international immigration card also, because who knows? She can't find a job. She can't get gainful employment 4 or 5 years from now in the United States. Why not go international and start thinking internationally? So those are my thoughts on the immigration status. As far as shipping a container, my family, when we did the Friendly Nations visa, our attorney gave us a letter that allowed us to ship $10,000 worth of furnishings and home supplies in to Panama with no taxes. Now, the when I say $10,000, you may not think that's very much, but they will tell you as they value. You're going to write a list of everything down that you're shipping. This box has 26 items in it, and here are the items. And they will help you develop this list. By the way, if you need help with your list, get a hold of me, and I'll tell you some of the secrets to making your list very easy and very passable. There's a few things that you do not want to put on your list. In other words, if you had a water cooler, you don't want to list a water cooler. You want to list a kitchen supply, because the water cooler says that they may need to do a $600 inspection on your water cooler to see if that freon is allowed in Panama. And if it's not, they crush the water cooler. If it is, they only charge you $600 for the inspection. So it would be better maybe to say kitchen supplies. And then there's no question. And typically, they don't open the containers and go through all of your stuff, typically, especially if everything is done correctly. Now, here's the key: $10,000 worth of furnishings. Your shipper and your attorney will tell you, mark all of your items at deeply discounted garage sale price. That means, and with my first move that I made from Dallas, Texas to Costa Rica years ago, I got it weaseled way down. I was so proud of myself. I penciled it in, and we had it down to about $25,000 in value. I was so proud of myself. And the guy looked at me and said, "Are you crazy? That's not Costa Rican garage sale prices." And I said, "Well, I don't know what to do." So he slashed it down to about $6,000. And that, between him, the shipper, and the government agent, they agreed that's about what the price was. So what you think is that deep discounted garage sale price is probably going to be stricken down even lower when it comes to a Central American garage sale price. That's good news. That means you can stuff a 40-foot container full of stuff with no import fees if you are doing one of these visa programs, and if that program allows you to bring that container in. That is just an awesome thing, especially if you like to sell little trinkets or do something as a hobby. You can bring your supplies in, bring your equipment in, and who knows, maybe bring in some used stuff that you can sell from time to time and meet people and help the community. So, so when it comes to that, the shipping now, Andrew, I wanted to
Hmm.
point out the shipping costs, because no doubt someone's listening right now, and you're up in Montana thinking about how am I going to get my furniture down to Panama. Now, if it's too much to ship it from Montana down, just sell it and
Yes.
repurchase here. And I know Andrew's family, they came down with 2 suitcases apiece. God bless them. They just, what a powerful thing they did. Uh, my family, I guess we're a little more attached to our stuff. We drag our junk around with us, and then after we get it here, we wish we didn't have it. And but one thing we found is if you ship from the U.S., call a U.S. shipping company. They're going to charge you a lot more money than if you called a Panamanian company who call for your goods to be brought. Also, there is a strategy right now. The Chiquita Banana Company out of Miami is shipping bananas up to the U.S., and their containers are going back empty. And they have offered a program right now. If you will palletize your products, get it all ready, and get it to them, where all they have to do is forklift those products over onto your into their container. They will ship a 40-foot container from Miami to Colon, Panama. That's Panama City at the canal for $2,500. Now you will have to unload it and have it shipped on into the country wherever you choose in Panama, and you will have to get it to Miami. But that $2,500 is an awesome, awesome price that I think a lot of people should be aware of and you should be able to work with. Andrew, anything further?
Yeah, I was just going to say that uh, we have some other friends that are getting ready to move down here, and they started to try to sell their stuff, and they were thinking when they came down here, started thinking about some other people that shipped containers. Then when they began to do their own investigation, there are other hidden costs that sometimes you'll incur, and they felt like the Lord saying they will, to strip down to the suitcase and box status. But then when they came down here for their exploratory trip, they kind of went back to the container status, and really they had no peace when they started doing that until they had to really go back to what did God say? What does God want you to do? And that's what I would kind of just recommend to people is just pray and say, Lord, do we just sell the stuff and start over again? You'll find that most of the homes here have furniture in them already. So you're just going to have extra furniture in many situations. But I just really recommend get the peace of God on whatever direction you want to go, whether it be the container or the box suitcase level. But there's also ways too that you can ship pallets. And I'm working on with a lawyer down in David that will be bringing in a container once a month here, and people can ship. I think it's through Chiquita, but it just you would ship a pallet down to Miami, and it would automatically go to a location that would go on the next container going out. So I will look more into that, and then we can uh, gather this information and give you an update on that possibility. So if you really, I don't really want to take a whole container. I don't really want to take that much stuff, but there are some things I'd like to take maybe on a pallet. Maybe there's some equipment that you use for business or something that will be a way that you can make a living while you're here, because that's something else that we'll be talking about, I believe, tonight. It's just how are you going to make this transition? Maybe you have an income there. How am I going to make another income in another location? And so there's a lot of blanks right now for a lot of people. Well, how am I going to make this move? And that's what these calls are about, is how to try to fill in the blanks and get some answers to some questions that you all have. So I say just get the peace of God on the direction as far as container, no container, how much stuff. Honestly, like what Daniel was saying, that many times people get down here and they say, what did I bring all this stuff for? You know, and there is kind of a freedom and a liberation that you get from getting rid of your stuff too, that you don't experience bringing everything. Literally, I felt free of my stuff I drug around with me all my whole life, and I felt like I had a really clean slate to start over again. So that's why I suggest just pray and ask God, get us direction on this area.
Amen. All right. Let's take a quick look here at utilities, gasoline, and travel expenses. Utilities. The good news about Panama, whether you live down in the hot region or up in the beautiful cool region where we're at with the pine trees, is that typically electricity is inexpensive. It sure is a lot less expensive than over in Costa Rica. By the way, Costa Rica is about just add 40% to your expenses, and that's what the addition is to food, gasoline, housing, utilities, all the way down the line, because Costa Rica has this massive import tax of 40% on cars and everything that comes in. If it wasn't created in Costa Rica, it's got a 40% additional tax added to it. But here in Panama, the good news, if you choose to live in a higher elevation, we're up at, what is it? I think 3,600 feet here, Andrew. And our temperatures are just a horrid 65 to 85 every day, all year long. And that means there's no air conditioners. You open the windows and the breeze. It's just gorgeous and beautiful all year long. So you really don't have a lot of those big energy hogs that are trying to change your atmosphere. I lived in a Dallas home that had three big energy hog air conditioners, and they ran 9 months out of the year, 24/7. I don't even want to tell you what I was paying in electricity. When I came here, my 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 in my income or my outgo dropped significantly just because of that save in utilities. Now, a lot of things here in Costa Rica, or I'm sorry, in Panama, are gas. It's natural gas, not propane, but natural gas. One of the great things about the natural gas, if you've seen I think it's the 10 pound, boy, that's a real bad picture there I drew. The 10 pound container, like you would see under a gas grill. Those are for sale here, and you can go into just about any place and buy one full and bring your empty in. And Andrew, do you remember the cost of that?
It's under $6. It's $5 and some change.
It's subsidized by the Panamanian government, and it's under six
$6.
dollars for one of those things. And you can run a stove on that for depending on how much time, and you can run it for a month or two. And so if you're going to bring something down, don't be afraid of bringing a gas stove or a gas refrigerator or a gas whatever, because gas here is dirt cheap. That's so exciting. Gasoline, Andrew, what would you say? It's a little more expensive than in the United States.
Yeah, you're paying probably around 365, I think, a gallon right now for 91 octane,
Okay.
something to that effect. It's about
What is
roughly 85 cents, 84 cents per liter.
Yes. Okay. And does anyone know? You can chat that in the chat room if you know. What's gas going for in the U.S. right now? It's about $3. I'm not sure. Okay. But you're saying about 365 a gallon
I
is
think 375, something like that.
okay. A little more expensive here. And I believe there is no oil or gas refineries. There's nothing here, so this is an import item in Panama. Travel expenses. Let's just talk about travel. If I wanted to drive, let's say I wanted to travel in Boquete and around Boquete. I either have a car or I don't. I want to travel from Boquete down to David, where there's some really great big grocery stores, and I want to do that once a week. Or maybe I want to drive all the way across the country over to Panama City. Andrew, what are some of the ways that I can travel in this country, and would you recommend any of them?
Well, the cheapest way to travel if you're just by yourself is by bus. You can go all the way from David over to Panama City for around 1650, I think, for a regular bus route. They have an express, midnight express. It's like 1850 or something like that for the express bus that doesn't have stops along the way, so to speak. With the construction between here, about the halfway point, Santiago, uh, you add maybe an extra hour, so you're looking about 7 hours on the express right now, maybe 8 hours on the regular bus. That is one way that you can travel inexpensively, but now there's two different airlines that fly from David to Panama City or back the other direction. One is Copa Airlines, and the other one's Air Panama. Air Panama was a little bit more expensive, but they've dropped their price since Copa began to fly this route. I think Copa's flight is somewhere around $85, somewhere in that range, and maybe around 95 for Air Panama in that price range. But that's certainly the quickest way because you're going to get there in about an hour or less, and sure saves a lot of time, especially if you have meetings or whether you have to do some business in Panama City. That flight sure makes things easy getting there. Or if you want to drive, it's going to cost you probably in the neighborhood of 60, 65, dollars, maybe $50, depending on the kind of gas mileage you get. What is it, about 325 miles or something like that here to Panama City, maybe 350 probably from David to Panama City. Daniel, do you think?
I believe so.
Okay.
Let me tell you this. I tell everyone that I know who's coming to visit and they're thinking about living here, I tell them all, get on the bus. Take the bus over. Now, I know all of my friends anyway, I know what they're thinking. They're thinking Panama bus, and maybe they've seen the movie Nacho Libre and they think they're going to be stuck on an old hot school bus with the windows open for 8 hours down in the heat of Panama. But let me tell you, these guys have the nicest luxury liner buses anywhere in the world. Some of them are double deckers. You can ride up on the top, heavily air conditioned. They'll provide a movie for you to watch if you want to watch it in Spanish. But very, very nice buses. And if you made a long flight and you need a little sleep, and that maybe it didn't work out for you to get another flight into David, jump on that bus. There's some places like Spirit Airlines will fly you in at 1:30 in the morning, and it's going to be 8 hours before you find a flight to get you to David. So you could almost be there by jumping on the bus and just riding over for 650. So I just recommend everyone take the bus one time, and then you'll know what it is, and you won't be afraid of it, and you won't be afraid to put your friends or family members on it. And if there's ever that need where you just need to make a nighttime run over to Panama City to go to the embassy and do some paperwork or something, you just won't be afraid to jump on that bus. I just think it's important. It's a gorgeous luxury liner. I might also mention, Andrew, right around Boquete and in any of the cities, the taxi cabs, if you know the true prices on the cabs, they're cheap. Now, sometimes they might try to get you if they see that you don't speak a lick of Spanish and you look like you're wearing your Hawaiian shirt and you look like a tourist. They may try to get you for something. But up here in Boquete, you can ride clear across town for 60 to 80 cents in a taxi cab. Um, in I'm just going to guess, but I would imagine it's maybe $7 or $8 to ride down to David in a cab. That's a guess, but it's not expensive at all. And we have friends here that are part of the church. They've come in to be as missionaries, and they don't have a car, and they're just as happy as can be because they can walk up to the street, grab a car or grab a bus. And this nation is so well routed. A bus comes by every 10 to 15 minutes anywhere in the country that has a bus station. Typically, on the main roads, every 10 to 15 minutes, a bus shows up, and you just jump on and pay your dollar or pay whatever the amount is, and you are off and running. So imagine spending maybe, if you're a retired couple and you're spending, let's say you spend 60 or $80 a month getting around, uh, that sure blows away the cost of having to maintain an automobile and all, and insurance and all the gas and repairs. If you just knew that you were penciling in 60, 80, or $100 a month for your local community travels, what an opportunity.
I was going to say something here, Daniel, too, is that whether you have a car or you don't have a car, that plays a big part in the location that you're going to get a home. So if you do find a home that's somewhere close by the cab routes and the bus routes, it makes it very simple to hop on a bus or cab or whatever and go in and out of town either direction. But I don't recommend if you don't have a car and you're required to use a cab to get around, that you get a home somewhere way off in the mountains somewhere. It's going to make it very difficult to get around. So those are some things to consider. If you do have a car, then it's kind of nice to be able to go somewhere maybe a little more remote in the mountain for a home, or the ability to get around makes it much easier to have that car. But that's going to, having a vehicle should kind of be something to consider where you're going to be living as well.
Thanks for mentioning that, Andrew. You just brought up we met a lady when we were just moving over here, and she saw a great, beautiful home online from the U.S. and she just rented it. And then she came down here and says, "Oh no, what have I done?" Because that home was out in Timbuktu. It was 4 miles of rugged, treacherous four-wheel drive vehicle to get to it, and it was a mess. And she had to cancel that lease. And let me mention, the pictures online look amazing, but really have someone run out there and take a look and give you an honest evaluation before you throw your money down and rent something or buy something in Panama. It's just very, very important. I was looking at a piece of property today online. A friend of ours sent it over, and he said, check this out. This is gorgeous. Well, I've been on that land. I've been there, and he saw it online and said, this is an amazing piece of property. But I've been there and would not recommend it myself because my feet have been on it. So just remember that what you see. Two rules online. What you see is not necessarily what you will get online, because we want to build the best story possible when we see the pictures online from North America. We want to build that picture and a beautiful story. And rest assured, the other guy is trying to build that story for you too, so that you'll throw your money down immediately, maybe even before you move. Secondly, if you're reading it in English, listen carefully. If you're seeing it and reading in English, you are probably paying anywhere from a third more to twice the price that you would pay if you were already living here and knew the true prices. There's so many high dollar pieces of property or rentals here in English, but the same rentals over on the Spanish site for half price. So just remember that if it looks high, you're looking at the inflated gringo price. Andrew, let's go into food just for a moment. We have 60 some restaurants here in this little sleepy town of Boquete. People like to eat out. And then we have the farmers markets and organic foods everywhere. We've got the hydroponic lettuce company right up the road that you can buy straight from them. Tell us a little bit your experiences on food costs, stores, restaurants.
Sure. Food costs, just basic food, like if you wanted to buy vegetables, there's so much vegetables that are grown right here on the mountain that vegetable and fruits are very inexpensive. You can go to this little local market and you can carry, as much food as you can put in your hands, probably for about 20 bucks, and hardly, almost feel like your fingers are going to fall off just because of the weight that you're carrying. Um, so, you can get like tomatoes maybe 50 or 60 cents a pound, bell peppers maybe the same, pineapples are like $1, just the potatoes are 50 cents a pound, but very inexpensive on the way of fruits and vegetables. Meat, chicken breasts, I think is around just at the little store right down below where we're sitting right now is about I think $1.35 a pound for chicken breast. Um, and you can get beef is a little bit more expensive, but they do have some beef that is they call it's like they can't have a certain price at a certain level. It has maybe $2 a pound for hamburger. There's a few other types of meats, and the government has kind of put a level of how much they can charge for the beef. But overall, food is relatively expensive. I know that cost of eggs, I think it's 467, 465 for 30 eggs. That's 2.5 dozen on a flat downstairs. So your price of food is, I think, pretty inexpensive. I know the price of food is really going up in the United States, especially with the bird flu wiping out a lot of the chickens and turkeys and egg farms and stuff. So fortunately, we do have a great abundance. There's chicken farms around just real close by. Most of the meat is all grass fed. They don't have feed lots and stuff like that here. You might find it's a little bit more tough, but you can cook the beef or buy a hamburger that's just fine. But the meat, we have a large family, so we have to kind of consider a lot of the food costs, and it's a real blessing to be here for that reason.
Okay, now Andrew, I got to tell the people here when it comes to restaurants, you can spend typically anywhere from $5 to $15 a plate. Do you want candlelight, or how do you want it? But I have to tell the people about the first lunch you took me to here in town, which blew me away. Now, to just anything in Costa Rica was oh wow, to take my family of four was $40, period, anywhere, and that's for a chicken leg and some fries and a Coke. You know, um, it was terrible. When I came here, you took me to this little Panamanian lady's restaurant, and she served the most awesome meal of it was a chicken, rice, beans, a dessert, and a drink. And how much was it?
Um, it was $3.50 for a meal, complete
350. I
lunch
couldn't pay her any more. I mean, 350. That's it. That was the cap, and you could choose steak or chicken, maybe even
or fish.
I'm sure, a fish. That's right. And so when I saw that I could buy a nice meal and sit in this gorgeous outdoor type of environment and talk with my friends for $3.50, I knew I had landed in the right place. Wow. And I think you'll find if you come here, you're going to find your favorite foods. There's of course all the sandwich shops and a deli here that will just remind you of home cooking from the U.S. There's pasta and hamburgers and you name it. It's all out here, and the prices are very, very reasonable. Um, and you can just about go anywhere and find a good priced meal, even among the more expensive. And the ambiance here, of course, when it's 65 to 85, and by the time the evening comes around, it's always 75. So the ambiance is typically outdoors, a light breeze, and a beautiful environment, maybe a river running by you. And it's like no other place on earth. So you're really, I imagine you're going to love the restaurants. I think everyone has their favorite five in Boquete, and I gotta be honest with you. Out of the 60 some restaurants, I've probably only darkened the doorstep of 20 of them in the year that I've been here, and I still got more to go find.
There too. Hey, how's it going? Good.
Okay, so
Good.
Let's talk briefly about health insurance, content insurance, auto insurance. Andrew, do you have any information for us on that?
Yeah, auto insurance, you pay for a liability policy for a year. My cars are, I think, are in the $200 range for a year on liability. If you want collision full coverage, I think it's around 750 or so. I just had a quote considering a new car that we just got, but you know, the insurance is really very reasonable. I don't think you can pick up a policy in the United States for under $200 for liability for year round. Um, the health insurance, I don't have any experience with health insurance. I haven't had health insurance for many years.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you this, that we've had a number of incidences where we had to go to the doctor, emergency visits, something took place that would have probably been very expensive in the United States. Um, and the most expensive bill I think that we had, including emergency visit, an IV, blood tests, things like this, it was, I think the cost was around $125 to get out the door. So, um, you know, there's, you know, if you live healthy and you know, you're just looking at maybe possible accident type situations that you might have to go to a doctor. But even just going up to the local doctor here at any of the little clinics, I think your visit's only going to be $10 to go in and see him and have him look at you or whatever. So, you know, you couldn't walk through a door of a doctor's office in the United States and get out with a $10 bill. So medical costs my experience has been very reasonable. There are several different hospitals down in David, and there's one that we've gone to mostly. It's a May Lewis Hospital, and that's been a hospital that's been very inexpensive to go, and they've given us excellent service there.
Well, I have the same exact same stories, Andrew. That you know, we came down loaded with insurance. We just always had it. Um, Now in the U.S., when I was living in Texas, I had a non-insurance policy. I think it was 10,000 deductible for per family member, family of four, and we were paying somewhere a little over $10,000 a year for a non-insurance policy, which basically after 10 grand per individual, then they would pay 80% up to $1 million, and then you're done, something like that. I'm not sure what in the world Obamacare is requiring of people in the U.S. now. I know that I think fines and fees are going to be charged for anyone who doesn't comply with buying government insurance. But a good thing is that if with Obamacare, I think you are exempted from Obamacare if you live outside of the U.S. So if you're thinking about what are my pros and cons financially, well, imagine a $10 doctor's visit. Imagine, you know, $500 worth of prescription medication that doctor gives you. Well, you can pick it up for $25 here. Um, it's the same company, it's the same label, but they know that they're not going to make that money on Panamanians or Central Americans, so they're milking the U.S. citizens for the high dollars and letting everyone else enjoy it around the world almost free. Now,
That's right.
I put on the webinar here. I've got a friend. His name's John McKee with Expat Global Medical, and this guy he set us up. So as I was telling you, 10 grand, which now is 14,000, by the way, since the Obamacare thing hit and the rates went up. But when we left Texas and went to Costa Rica, this guy got us a premium it was like a Blue Cross plan. Basically, it's a $1,000 deductible per person. It covers you for I think $3 million lifetime. Um, after you're with them for a year, they pay you like $250 each, where you can just go get preventative, go get a medical checkup, go get your teeth cleaned, go have fun. They'll give you cash to go stay healthy. Um, and then, but the cost on this policy, which allows me, as I travel around the world, it allows me to be treated anywhere in the world, including the United States. I could be treated in the U.S. I just can't live there if I'm going to get this policy because of all the red tape and all the hassle and harassment inside those borders of the U.S. This is a Lloyd's of London backed policy, and it's $3,500 a year, $1,000 deductible, full coverage. Now, I've had it ever since I got out of the U.S. and been living internationally, and I have not yet used it. So here's Andrew. He hasn't been forking out all that money, and he's got a major medical situation. He gets out for $150, and I'm paying this insurance that'll cover me, just in case. And I've never tapped on that insurance yet. So we find that when we have a cough or a cold or an issue, we go down there, and the bill is so negligible. We wouldn't even want to bother, with your insurance. Anyway, I wanted you all to know that. And if you feel that you need insurance, give John a call. Tell him that we sent you, and he'll take good care of it.
Thank you for helping.
If my friends, if you are online with the webinar, make sure that you turn your microphones off because we can all hear you. Okay? Turn your mic off. Thank you. Okay.
Great. That's great.
And one thing I was going to mention here, Daniel,
Are you
is
from CNU too? Yeah. Did you go at the same time?
one thing I can share with you is that it's 300.
Hang on just a second here, Andrew.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Okay, I've got them muted, I think. Thanks.
Okay. One thing I can tell you is that at 330 days, if you're out of the country for 330 days, you're automatically exempt from Obamacare. So that's kind of the cutoff day. So even if you're out and you're living out, you just don't want to be there for more than 35 days in the U.S. To keep you exempt from Obamacare. Another thing, Joe, I just want to tell you a funny story that I heard from somebody else, is that there was a fella that was going to get his knee replaced, or had a knee replacement surgery here in Panama, and I believe it was in Navid, and he just didn't feel comfortable having a Panamanian doctor, do his surgery. So the funny thing is that he went to Florida to go get his surgery done, and when he was there in Florida, it turned out to be the same doctor that was going to do the surgery, but at a much higher price when he did it in Florida. So it's just kind of funny, he went all the way to Florida and get somebody else to do his knee surgery, and it turned out to be the same doctor that was going to do it in Panama. So they really do have high quality doctors here, and they have a great heart surgery. It's there in Panama City. So there's some great hospitals, great facilities. It's not like some third world, Panama City is a very modern city with very good medical care there. So just to kind of ease, because this is one of the big issues that I think a lot of people are thinking of, well, what kind of medical care am I going to get if I go to this place? I had another incident too where there was a guy, the lady, the wife was very concerned, or very sure that this is where she wanted to live. She went to the Coronado area. She had her husband come. He loves the beach. He loves to go fishing. So she figured this would be a good place for him to settle in. He was very concerned about medical issues. Well, he had some infection or something happened on his hand. His hand all swelled up. And he went to a local doctor there, and he treated him, and he was completely cured like in a day. The doctor knew exactly what he was doing, and he was just amazed at the how good the doctors were here. He didn't know what to expect, but I think that there's many things that will be a concern for people to keep them from going where God wants them to go, and
Right.
And I think you just have to trust the Lord. If the Lord is calling you someplace, that He's got everything, He's got all the details covered, and don't let fear of what you're used to inhibit you from going where God's telling you to go. So I know medical issues can be an issue for many people. What kind of medical costs? In fact, I'll tell you this. One guy has diabetes that was here about a week ago, and he was concerned about whether he'd get medication and insulin for his condition, and he went and got it from a local pharmacy, and it was at a very fraction of the cost it was going to cost him to get it in the United States. So that was a pleasant experience for him as well.
That's so true. Andrew, this is a great time just to break into the spiritual side of this. Like you said, God has you covered. If He's calling you out, and by the way, there may be those who listen to the recording of this who you're just thinking about moving to Panama because you're looking for a place to retire. We're really focusing on those that are being called by God for something greater than you've ever experienced before. And we are seeing people, Andrew and I are both seeing people come up this mountain every week, and they all have the same story. God's calling them here. They don't all know exactly why. They just know He's calling them here. There's an old movie from Stephen King called The Stand. I don't know if you've seen that thing. I watched it and I was blown away by it, and I'm reminded of it. In the movie, all these people, just these few people all around the country, have the same dream of this little lady up in Iowa, in a white Iowa cornfield, rocking on her front porch, and they have this dream, and she's saying, "Come up here and see me now. It's about time for you to come. I want you to come find me and see me because I got something for you to do." And then in the movie, a plague hits, and the whole world dies except for those who had the dream. So, like one guy in a town, he's riding a bike down, heading out of town, and he runs across someone else, and they start talking. "Hey, how did you make it through the plague?" "I don't know. I'm. Well, where are you going?" "I'm going to Iowa." "Well, I'm going to Iowa too." "Well, why are you going to Iowa?" "Well, because I had this dream of this lady who told me to come." "I had the same dream," and all these people showed up in the same location. And the story goes on that she's going to empower them and tell them about great evil that's coming, and they're going to defeat evil in the day. So, in the same way, that's a kind of a warped movie way, but I see people coming with the same deal. God is calling people from all walks of life, from every job background, from every business and ministry background, professionals, seasoned people, and unseasoned people. They're showing up all over the place saying, "God told me to come here. I don't know for sure why, but I'm here to serve." And I believe, and I know Andrew believes this too, that when you're obedient and you respond to God, He's got your medical covered. He's got all the stuff covered. Hey, Panama's going to be different. Yeah, there's a Johns Hopkins and a Mayo over in Panama City, but you're not going to need that necessarily. What you need is a new culture, a new environment. You need a new place that God can drop His seed in the ground so it can produce and multiply. And I believe for many of you, Panama is that very, very fertile field. God wants to drop you in, let you die, so that you can then produce a crop and really get some multiplication done in your life. Genesis chapter 12. This is a key. God spoke to Abram. Now, Abram was successful. He was the wealthiest guy in the day. And God spoke to him and He said, "Abram, I want you to leave." He said, "I've given you three gates to cross. And my friend, these are three of the hardest gates any of us will ever get through." He said, "Leave your country, leave your people, your culture, and leave your father's household, and go to the place that I will show you." The key there is, He said, "Once you leave and go, then I'll show you." God was not going to waste His time telling Abram about all the great things and showing him all the details until Abram was willing to go. I'm sure it was so bad if Abram thought like we Western people do. Abram was probably saying, "Well, which way do I leave town? Do I go east or do I go west? At least tell me that way." And God said, "You go." The Bible says He will direct the steps of a righteous person. But if you're not taking steps, He has nothing to direct. And so Abram may have had to go north in order to head south. He may have had to head west in order to eventually be turned by God to head east. And God said, "You leave town and then I'll show you where you're going." And then He did promise him, though. He said, "I'm going to make your name great. You're going to be a blessing to many nations. You follow me, I will be an enemy to your enemies, and I will be a friend to your friends. And I am going to make your offspring. You're going to be so productive because you made it through those three gates: country, people, father's household. You made it through to the other side, and I'm going to multiply you. Your generations will be like the sand of the seashore. My friend, the Bible does say, Jesus said, anyone who leaves family, mother, brother, sister, your lands, your job, your business, for my sake and the sake of the gospel, will receive 100 times more in this life, and in the life to come, you'll receive an eternal inheritance and a reward. And I think the message is clear. And if you've got the faith and the calling and the nudging of the Holy Spirit is telling you, get over there and get planted, I can tell you you're one of many who are coming. The team is being assembled. We don't know exactly what the team is going to do. I personally think that Panama is a great big trampoline. And when we get here, we're going to get our marching orders and be trampolined out all over the world for good works in His name. Andrew, you want to jump on in that?
Yeah, one thing I've learned is that you can't steer a ship that's sitting still. You know, a ship that sits still cannot be steered. And I realized when I began to move, I didn't know which direction. The Lord just so said, I was to leave. My nest was in the wrong force, is the way He put it to me, and I didn't know which direction to go. I went north, and I went up into Canada. Took 4 trips on business to just explore that direction. But then when I had a fellow call me from Panama that I had met a few months earlier, I immediately knew that was the direction I was supposed to go, and I knew that we were supposed to take an exploratory trip there. So, it's like what Daniel just mentioned, is that, first of all, Abraham had to leave, and there was no promises other than I'll show you. And most people, I'm afraid that they say, "Show me and I'll leave." They want to know everything's lined out. They want a 10 million candle power flashlight showing way down the road before they make that first step. But I like what you said, Daniel, one time, is that lamp. My word is a lamp to your feet and a light to your path. That lamp was just a handheld lamp that just was enough to get one step at a time, essentially. And then and the first, the step that you took illuminated the next step. And sometimes that's the way the Lord just does with us, we have to exercise an element of trust in our life that, Lord, I know you spoke to me to do this. I'm going to be obedient and do it. And as you do, then the next set of instructions begins to unfold in your life. And this is the way faith operates. And this is how we exercise our faith, is just trust Him enough to at least to just take that first step.
That is so true. So true. Thank you, Andrew. Um, Anything else here? We've got just entertainment, movies, concerts, sports. Anything else you can think of that a person may need to put down for their budget, for their monthly budget, that we could cover before we move on to questions and answers?
I think that's pretty much it. I think you can really cut your budget way down because you don't have all these other expenses that you're finding, though, the taxation. And I mean, if you start looking at the taxation and so many different things that you must participate in the United States, you'll find that, the taskmaster is not here saying make bricks with no straw. You have the freedom to begin to actually be able to keep some of the money that you're making because it's not being extracted from you. So that's one thing I really enjoy being here too, is that you don't have the whip on your back every day to pay the taskmaster.
Yes, so true. In Panama, typically in a business cycle, I just say it all the time because I see it this way. The Panama is basically 30 years behind North America, the United States, and that is a good thing. Once you've been taxed and slave driven enough, it's a real refreshing thing to step back 30 years. Just think about what was the United States like 30 years ago. When you come to Panama for a discovery trip, you're going to find that same environment. The policeman will smile at you. They'll shake your hand. Um, the people are kind. They're not so frazzled because they got to get to the third job. Everything is different here because, as Andrew said, the taskmaster is not beating everyone and slave driving them. And you're going to find you're going to find peace in this place if you come down. We recommend you come down for a discovery trip if possible. Come down and spend 7-10 days if you can. Look at Panama City, look at a few different areas, and then come and at least spend 3 days in Boquete, at least, in order to really capture it and get to know the people and to get to know the Christian fellowship and the family that's here. You need those 3 days. If you're planning your trip, don't be afraid to plan, first of all, to be here on Wednesday morning, which there is a Christian businessman's fellowship here, which is powerful. And you will get a chance to meet so many people that are on the same page with you. Wednesday morning at 8 in Boquete, the Christian Businessmen's Fellowship in English, and also Sunday, there's some really great churches to go to. And don't be afraid of booking in those two time frames so you can really get a hold of the spiritual climate, the spiritual environment here. Of course, there's so much more going on. There's missions activities, there's services. Andrew, your church meets multiple times per week. They're always doing something and always busy in the community ministering and whether it's a service or an outreach. I appreciate your church so folks, I want you to come and book in a few days minimum here in Boquete.
I agree 100% there. I think the Wednesday and the Sunday are very important for people to make sure that they're here during the time frame because, like you said, those two meeting times to meet the people of the church here and be a part of that fellowship in the morning on Wednesdays, you really get a sense of the spiritual climate and atmosphere here of what's happening.
Yes, we see so many people who we've got some friends who were, matter of fact, moved from Hawaii and they started in Costa Rica. They were going to spend 4 months in Costa Rica, 4 months in Panama, and then 4 months they were going to choose maybe Chile or Ecuador. They were trying to decide where they're going to live, and they had 1 year to do it. Well, they spent their 4 months in Costa Rica, loved it, came here to Panama, and 7 days into the trip said, "We're home. There's no need to go any further." We have not only found that this gorgeous climate and atmosphere here, we have found a Christian family that has paid a price and that is here on purpose, and the relationships are covenant and they're deep. And they said, "We're here, so we're not even going anywhere else." And so they just signed a long-term lease, and that family stayed. And that's one of many, many stories. I think you'll find the exact same thing as well. Now, folks, we're getting ready here for questions and answers, and we want to open up your microphones. If you would turn your mic on just long enough to ask the question. Maybe tell us your first name and maybe where you're living, what state or what city, if you're willing, and then ask your question. Shut your mic back off, and we'll try to answer. And then next week. Andrew, I really believe that next week we need to cover how do you make money in Panama. That's just a cash flow is going to be a number one issue for so many people. And Panama is not like the U.S. You don't just put your resume out and pass it out and jump in it and just grab a job. Things are different here. They're better here in many ways. And there's much more opportunity in Panama, in my opinion, and all through Central and South America, much more opportunity than up in the United States, which is winding down. But this next week, Andrew, are you available next week?
Yes, I should be available next week. That would work.
Another live webinar then on specifically on how to make money, how to invest, and what is the investment and the job and business climate here. What are some of the needs? My friend, you don't want to miss this one because I am bubbling over with such excitement of the opportunities that are here and that are growing, even in a harsh downward spiral that the world could go into if the dollar crashes or whatever. This climate will continue to build because people are coming here. They're building, they're moving here, they're building homes, they're building businesses. Entire dynasties are being moved into Central and South America. So it's going to be an exciting one. Don't miss that webinar. And if this is a few months old, get out there and find that other one that we recorded as well. You're going to want to be a part of that. So right now we'd like to open up for questions and answers, and anything that really anything goes. We'll try to just give you the quick answer. If it's an answer that's going to take 15 or 20 minutes, what we'll do is we'll give you the snapshot tonight, and then you email us and we'll send you the longer version personally, one-on-one. So I'm going to open up the mics at this time. If you have any questions, any comments, I do see there are people here from Panama. If you've even got a story, want to just give a quick shout out and say, maybe just give your opinion, then you feel free to do that as well. Mics are open.
You can watch this. I'm just gonna unplug this.
All right, anyone? Okay, the microphones are open. If there are any questions, anyone have a question? It's an open field right now.
Let's just do that right now.
Well, Andrew, I don't think we have any takers. No questions at this time. If you have not, if you don't have a microphone, feel free to write in the chat box, and we'll read that out to everyone else here. Matter of fact, I do have one here. Let me see here. Here's one comment. I feel strongly the Lord is leading my husband and I to move to Boquete. However, just like you said, I have no idea what he's calling us to do there. There you go. That is a common question, a common denominator. You want to start on that, Andrew?
Sure. You know, I envisioned myself like a piece of a puzzle, and I was on the United States table instead of the Panama table. I didn't realize this until after I got here, but that's the way I kind of looked at it. It's like nothing fit. I mean, as much as I tried to do and get something to happen ministry-wise, I mean, business-wise it was fine, but as far as really ministry, just nothing seemed to work. I didn't fit in, or a lot of opposition to ministry that I felt like the Lord was leading us to do. But once we came to Panama, I came with a desire just to serve. And one of the scriptures that came to me just recently is when the Lord spoke through Moses before Pharaoh, and he said, "Let my people go that they might serve." And one of the things that I think that we become the right piece of the puzzle is that we have an attitude to serve, that we're coming to serve, we're coming to plug in. And one of the things, Daniel, when I was at your house one time, I was talking to Tracy, and we were just talking over by the little island there in the kitchen, and as I was speaking to her, the Lord began to show me something, and it was that he said that you're as useless to me as those appliances on the countertop if you're not plugged in. And that's the whole key, is that we have to plug in. We have to plug into God's purpose, and then we start understanding why we're here. But it's Him that kind of fits us into jointly together as we plug into the body of Christ. And I think part of the problem, maybe things aren't working out, is maybe our attitudes are wrong. Maybe we're still trying to serve ourselves, and maybe our motives are wrong in our, quote, ministries. But I believe that, you know, when I came really just broken and stripped, and we didn't know anybody, didn't know the language, I literally cried out to God. I said, "God, if you don't feed me, I'm going to die." And He said, "Good, now you're where I want you." And I realized that this is where He's trying to get all of us. And I think when we leave our comfort zone, there becomes a new dependency on Him that we don't experience when we have everything in order back home in our little nest. And so I think as you plug in, as you come in with just the heart to serve, and you just find, Lord, how can I serve you here? How can I serve people here? That the ministry just happens because He's looking for a willing vessel that He can plug in. And I found one of the keys that I want to really mention is that I really highly recommend that when you do get here is that you find a place to plug in. You do something to be able to begin to serve people. And how can I help here as a member of the body of Christ, because I've seen people that just hang out at home and they don't really plug in, they don't connect with people, they don't begin to meet people and have the opportunity of God to bring divine appointments into their life. They end up leaving. And it's like, well, whose fault was it that they end up not feeling that place? They never got out. They never got to meet, never met people and really connected. So I think two things are very important. First of all, that you plug in and then you get connected. And that's one of the things that we try to do with the men's fellowship, or the Christian Business Men's Fellowship. Of course, it's open for women as well. But the church services to get to meet people, and we're always trying to connect people, introduce people to other people, because I think it's so important that you begin to give God the opportunity to divinely coordinate events in your life and bring divine appointments with people.
Amen. Great word. Great word. I'd like to say that I believe that while you're making the preparations to moving in faith, again, God is not, he's not a Western thinker. We many times have to have the dots line up so that we understand in our Greek mentality where we're going and we approve of it. But really blind faith, I mean that faith that will just jump in the arms of God, the faith of Abram that made him Abraham, that faith will obey the voice of God, whether you understand or not. The Bible says, in all your ways acknowledge him, lean not on your own understanding, but have faith in God. And if you will take those steps of faith, and I'm going to be honest with you, in the United States of America, we have not, up to this point, had to make a lot of really mighty steps of faith. Now, maybe certain people have, and I remember I thought the steps of faith I was taking in the United States in my earlier years, I thought they were, it's either do or die, baby. But really, to take a step of faith in the way that God wants it done will put you right into his hands. It'll put you in need of a miracle right where you need to be, and that's where God produces. I want to share a quick scripture with you today, which let me see here. I've got one here somewhere. The scripture is in Proverbs, and it says, don't have it. I didn't write it down tonight. It says this in Proverbs. It says that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, and a sinner's wealth is laid up for the righteous. Now, if we are going to be good men, and I want to back up just for a moment. I know we don't even have to go there. I know that many of us, we've seen the writing on the wall. We're not happy with where we are. We're not happy with the state of the nation we're in. As a matter of fact, I personally, I'll be as bold as to say this, when my nation has been handed over to sons of Belial, SOBs, who are worthless to God and worthless to men, have right, wrong, and wrong, right, evil is good, good is evil, up is down, down is up, frontward is backward, homosexual is awesome, and being a straight white male is something to be abhorred. Transgendered is to be celebrated and given an award, and someone who just made 100% on their test at school is to be scorned. When the nation turns into leadership that is upside down and backwards, Romans chapter 1, if you will read it, says there are 4 steps to reprobation. Step 1 happens when you become unthankful in heart, and God allows your heart to go dark. Step 1 is being unthankful. Step 2, leads you into sexual immorality. Step 3 into homosexuality. And step 4 leads you into such a depraved mindset that you don't want to retain the knowledge of God any longer. You don't want him in your courts. You don't want him in your schools. You don't want him in your neighborhood. You don't want to see the Christian t-shirt. You don't want to hear a Christian say the word sinner. You don't want to hear anything. You want it to be hate speech and done away with, because you have decided, as Romans 1 says, I do not want to retain the knowledge of God in my life, in my mind, or in the hearing of my ears any longer. When they get to that point, Romans 1 says that these are depraved men full of evil, greed, fraud, wickedness. They're full of murder and envy. And you need to watch these people, my friends, because they will murder you. They have no tolerance for you, no tolerance for God in their life or in their hearing. And that is where we are at, is Romans chapter 1, the 4th step. The leaders of our land are making decisions based on their full-blown depravity. And because of that depravity, Romans 1 says that the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against the godlessness and wickedness of men who live like this. Therefore, I'm not happy to be putting my kids or my grandkids in that. I want to be a good man who leaves an inheritance. I don't want to leave a desert for my kids. I want to leave a fertile field, a place for them that they can grow and laugh and learn and live in joy and peace and be able to multiply the garden that God has given them. I know you're exactly the same way. That's why you're listening tonight. So we go on a hunt. And we're hunting for that land, for the Garden of Eden. We're looking for a place that's, number one, the government's friendly towards Christianity and what's right and the truth. We're looking for an area that's not a taskmaster, not high taxation. We're looking for tolerant people. And you know what? You get down here in Latin America, you've got tolerance. You've got a government that loves God here. I've heard it with my own ears, government officials who say we will not go with America because America is taking God out of the courts and out of the schools, but we're putting God in our courts and in our schools. We've got government officials here that are blessing what we bless. As a matter of fact, the nation of Israel just called Panama their greatest friend in this hour. Not only that, a billionaire who's half Israeli here in this country, half Israeli, half Chinese, is what I'm told. He has just segregated a few miles from Boquete, just right over the hill here, 2,000 acres, and they are inviting every Israeli that was displaced because of the Palestinian West Bank takeover. They're inviting those Israelis to come live here. So you have a nation that's acclimated and that's tolerant and that's appreciative and that loves truth. And that's where I want my kids to grow, as a nation like that. This isn't the only nation, I'm sure, but this is the one we were led to, and we are so pleasantly blessed every day we wake up and we hear another reason that God has put his hand on this country. Now, Revelation chapter 12 says that the dragon is angry with the woman. He's so angry with her, with the church. He's mad at her and he's coming to devour her. But Revelation 12 says that the woman is given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she may be flown to a place of safety out of the reach of the dragon. I'll say it again, out of the reach of the dragon. And I believe that Panama and many other apostolic hubs that are being formed around the world are simply out of the reach of the dragon. And God is raising up. You know that the bald eagle is the national bird of America. Why? Because the eagle represents the Holy Spirit. We were the nation that invited him, that housed him, that blessed and honored him. And now that eagle is putting his wings upon his servants and upon his called out one, and those that are willing to go, and he's flying them to places of safety that they could become productive and multiply in ways that they couldn't do it back in the desert of the United States in that environment. So that's my little rant, but I believe that we need to be thinking forward here with our children's children. A good man is leaving an inheritance for the future, and if you can at least look forward, think about 10 years from now, 20 years, 30 years from now, where will your environment currently, where will it be? All I can say is this: mass communism on steroids is in charge and is planning a hostile takeover of my country. And if they are successful, I don't know if they will be, but if they are successful, communism's typical lifespan is 40 to 70 years. And I don't want my grandkids raising up in an Agenda 21, super powered, on steroid, communist police state. I want them free to exercise their gifts and to be a blessing for God and for the world. I know that you're in the exact same position, but you have to look forward and think: is this going to be? Is it going to be okay in 5 years? Is it going to be all right in 3? I know most of us are trained in a McDonald's minute. We want a drive-through restoration. You know, God, just come down, sweep through, get it all done in 6 months, and that doesn't happen through history and through national cycles. It doesn't happen quickly, at least in the past. Barring a miracle, it won't happen quickly this time. So it costs me very little to put my family in a Garden of Eden where they can grow and prosper, but it will cost me everything if I leave them in the wrong place and the gate comes down in front of us. Amen.
Dr. Daves,
Yes.
do you have time for a question?
Bring it on.
Okay, thanks. First of all, I just wanted to let you know there's a Canadian in your midst.
All right.
Yeah, you're not all from the U.S. Some of us are coming from Canada too. That was me that left the question that I feel that, or the comment that I feel the Lord is leading us there. We came to visit in September, and actually Boquete was the last place I thought I wanted to live from what I had read. I thought it was all gated communities and arrogant gringos and such, so I thought that's not where I want to go. We just happened to be passing through as I was on my way to Vulcan and Cerro Punta, and we realized Boquete was, it felt like home. And I know that's where we belong. We'll probably be there before winter, Lord willing.
Well, welcome, Boquete, and there's many other Canadians here too.
Yeah, and so I wanted to ask you. I have a 16-year-old son that is trying to decide whether he wants to stay here in Canada with his father, or I want him to come with me to Panama because I feel the Lord wants him there. But that intrigued me what you said about the 19-year-old and the opportunities, and I just wondered if you could elaborate a little bit more on that, because I'm not really sure about that for young people, because I'm coming over as a pensionado. I don't know that, like, there's no employment, and I know next week you're saying you're going to talk about income earning opportunities, but I'm just trying to think, like, I was thinking maybe he's coming just for a couple of years and then he'll have to go somewhere else to go to university or college, but maybe not. Maybe you have something else to share with me.
Okay, I'm going to let Andrew take this here, but remember too, there are universities and colleges here in Panama as well, and there are many places. Matter of fact, let me just share with you a girl that we know and are good friends with in Costa Rica. She's a U.S. citizen, and she went to 6 years of medical school in Costa Rica. By the way, Costa Rica's medical system rates higher than the U.S. medical system. So she went there, and I believe her total college bill for 6 years was $17,500 to become a medical doctor in Costa Rica. She simply goes up and takes the bar exam in the U.S., jumps through a couple of hoops, and she's a medical doctor in the U.S. This is why all of our hospitals are filled with Indians and people from other countries, because they can get trained for pennies on the dollar with the same training, same equipment, same school books, and then come to the U.S. and make bigger money. So there are lots of ways when it comes to college and university that you may actually be able to get the same type of degree for pennies on the dollar. That's just a
Wow.
thought, and I'm going to let Andrew take it from here.
Let me tell you a little bit of experience that I have with my children. I have a 23-year-old here. I have a 21. I have a one that's actually I have a 20-year-old. I have one that's almost 18, almost one that's 16, and so I have a number of teenagers here that are in kind of the same situation. They're here, and what does their future look like as far as business opportunities and things like that? And what we've discovered is that the skill levels they've already learned in the time that they've been here, they've learned how to speak Spanish. And so now they're Duolingo. They have two languages now that they can work with. Um, and they have ideas coming from another country that have never been implemented here in this country. And so the way I see it is that there's opportunities that are here that will never exist where you're at. And if you can just maybe make the transition, like such as the 16-year-old boy, he's got a couple of years to learn a language, but I'm looking now that there's just multiple opportunities, but you know you just there's gifts that each of us have. I have two of my daughters, one in particular, that has developed an incredible baking ability. And so she sells banana nut bread and cookies and things like that, and she's doing fairly well. You know, as a little young lady, baking bread, you know, on the side, and so uh, or starting an automotive detailing business for the other two boys. But there's opportunities, and honestly, you know, most of the kids now, they're 50% of the kids are getting out of college, can't even find a job, and you know, they got a college degree and they're working at McDonald's. Is that really a future? And if you look at the tax, go ahead. If you recognize the fact that maybe the opportunities aren't what they were, and we're still living in an old world. We're still living a dream of yesterday, and the dream's gone. And in those times when you realize that, you know, Daniel and I are talking about this tonight, maybe we don't know what it's going to look like where this country, let's say you want to have a year plan, a 2-year, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. What's it going to look like where I'm going? Well, if it doesn't look real clear, essentially where you're going, what does it look like in your country where you're living right now? Look at the tax rates. Look at the debt load of the governments. Look at the kids that are getting out of college and they still can't even find a job, and they got the average debt, let's say, is $20,000 of their college, you know, their college schooling that they have to pay off. And so what kind of opportunities is there really? I would have to say, honestly, from my experience living in both worlds now, that there's a greater opportunity here if you're willing to look for it. You have to look for it, though. You can't expect it just to come to you. Well, I'm looking for a job. Here's my resume. I just look at things. Well, what is a need that's never been met here? Hey, there's the opportunity right there in front of you. And I'm always looking for opportunities. I see them everywhere. I don't have enough time to take advantage of all the opportunities, but I'm taking advantage of as many as I can get my hands on, or hiring somebody else to do it for me if I start the business. So I just say that don't be afraid, because you think about it, most of our family came from Europe, or they came from another country at one time, and they had to go through the same process. You know, there's less opportunities here. I'm looking forward now to the United States, let's say, or to Canada, maybe 200 years ago, and saying, you know, that the opportunities are greater over there for my future. And now the same thing's happening again. We have to look at this time in history and say, you know what, I can see the ending of opportunities here. I got to look for a new land, and have to trust God enough that He's going to lead me and provide as we go.
Hey,
Well, thank you. I'm really happy to hear that you have the experience with the young, you know, having young kids. How long have you been living in Panama with your family?
Right about 3 years now.
Oh, okay. What school do your kids go to? Or are they homeschooled?
We homeschool them.
Okay.
there you go.
All right.
I might mention also, Lori, make sure that you watch this. I've got it up on the screen. The College
Yes.
Conspiracy full documentary. Do not miss this. Watch it this week, and it will answer all of your questions. The big bubble that is about to pop in the United States right now is over $1 trillion worth of college debt. Now, why is it that a 6-year medical degree costs $200,000, but I can get the same degree in Costa Rica for 17.5? The reason is anything the government touches, regulates, puts a school loan on, it goes up in price and it gets overinflated. That's why $1 trillion worth of this generation's students will not, those are unforgivable loans. They're going to carry that slavery with them the rest of their lives. As Andrew said, 50%, they're moving back home. They can't get jobs in their field. They're working at, a medical doctor working at Starbucks. Now, again, our family members were on the boats and they came over to America. There was no Starbucks for them to sign up for and drop their resume on. There was no Apple store to go to work for. There was no easy jobs to drop in on when they came on the boat. They had to get their hands dirty and just figure something out and start meeting needs. And man, God blessed them. God will bless you, and He'll bless your young people. And I have to say as well, if you have any entrepreneurial spirit at all in you, there's too many deals here. My little 19-year-old daughter, her friends got a hold of her after she graduated from high school, homeschooled, and they said, "So, when are you moving back? When are you coming back for college?" And she said, "Are you kidding me? There is too much to do out here. I don't foresee myself ever coming back." She said, "If anything, I'm moving further south because there's so many opportunities. It's like a kid in a candy store here." And they were just shocked, like, "What? You're not coming back to the U.S.?" And she says, "No way. There's nothing for me there. It's all out here." And I think once you've paid that price and stepped through those three gates, country, people, Father's household, and you step out in faith and you get out here, then He'll show you. Remember, that's what He told Abram. He said, "You get on the move and then I'll show you." And that is exactly what we see. We see it happen over and over again. Now, next week, we're going to show you and give you some keys. But remember what I said earlier, Panama is 30 years behind. See, Andrew's teenagers, they have one up on Panama. I mean, they're higher educated than the highest of education in Panama because they've already lived in the United States, and now they're back 30 years where some of the things they enjoyed in the U.S. have not even crept up here yet. Case in point, when I moved to Costa Rica 4.5 years ago, you know what the newest, hottest thing that just hit? Well, right before we got there, the newest, hottest thing that had just hit was this awesome thing called the shopping mall. Have you ever heard of it? It's a great big building where 200 businesses all get together. They have a food court and a movie theater, and everyone goes there and jams there, and it's the greatest thing in the world, the greatest place to hang out. Well, in the U.S., our shopping malls are being dismantled. But 30 years ago, it was the hottest thing in the U.S. Well, here it just hit in Central America, I think about 5 years ago. Now, when I was in Costa Rica, we went to that shopping mall one day, and guess what the newest, hottest fad was in Costa Rica? It's called the fried donut. Can you imagine a little fried thing with a hole in the middle, and we'll stand in line for an hour to get one? Have you ever had one of these before? And I'm sitting there saying, yeah, it was called Krispy Kreme 30 years ago. And it just hit here, and it's the hottest new sensation. Now, if you can remember what life was like and what was hot 25 and 30 years ago in the United States, you have a good idea of a business opportunity in Central America because those things have not hit here yet. So Andrew's kids are way ahead of the curve because they've already lived in a bunch of it. They just need to figure out what they want to do, what God's called them to do, and which would be the best, which is the first one to jump into. We don't even have a donut shop in Boquete. There's 20 8,000 people here, and we don't have a little fried donut shop with a little rack rolling by and frying those donuts. Can you imagine what will happen when someone sets the first one in here and offers donuts and coffee? It'll be an amazing day in Boquete, and the people will get in line for it. So that's just an idea for you of how much is here. It's not just a job and a resume and go to work for Joe. It's let's provide something of quality and excellence and of service for these people, and let's give them let's see their eyes get wide open just like ours were wide open 30 years ago. So that's exciting to me, and I think your kids would probably fall right in line with the exact same thing. And if they're interested in that college education, they feel, let's say, a prompting to be an engineer or a prompting to be a certain thing that needs a collegiate level education, then now's the time to start searching that out. Number one, can I get educated here in Panama with that degree? Number two, will that degree transfer to other nations pretty easily? And then also, after I get degreed, can I work it here in Panama? There are a few things that are reserved specifically for Panamanians. Now, if your son becomes a citizen here after 5 years of residency, then he's a Panamanian. He can work here. But certain things such as doctors, I believe nurses, lawyers, I believe those positions are reserved at this time for Panamanians. So if you're a doctor, I know a guy who works down there, Andrew, for Matt Kelly's office, and he's a medical doctor. He got trained here, but he can't work here as a medical doctor. So he was getting ready to move back to his hometown in Spain, and he was going to be a medical doctor in Spain. So just those are things to figure out right now if you're looking for that professional career. And it's the field is wide open. If you find that profession that you can get trained in, I'm here to guarantee you that your college here is going to be high quality. They'll get it bilingual. They're going to be forced to learn a second language, which now is the largest language in the world, or almost to eclipse English as the largest common spoken language in the world. They're going to learn that second language. They're going to be international, and they're going to have a degree, pennies on the dollar. Now, I asked my attorney. She's a great attorney. I said, how much did it cost you to go to college to become an attorney? And she said, you won't believe me when I tell you. And I said, well, shoot at me. And she said, $17 a semester. $17 a semester.
Wow.
That was her cost for professional training to be an attorney that we use in immigration and in property purchases here in Panama. Think about that. Their government is not involved in their education system. The policers are not involved. They're not giving student loans so that the college can jack the price up and make buku money because it doesn't matter. It's on a loan. So you got real value and real price here. And I think it could be the greatest opportunity for young people who see the moment today and seize it before any of those doors were to close. Again, college conspiracy, watch it, and you won't want your children in a United States university after you see that. Any other questions?
Dr. Daves?
Uh-huh.
Hi, this is Stephanie Nelson. You've spoken with my husband Scott a week or two ago,
Sure.
and I've been working on the getting the Friendly Nations visa.
Okay.
We plan on coming in July, middle of July, and we wanted to get that all taken care of before we left.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a huge wait with the authentication office in the U.S. 12 to 14. I'm sorry. The between the background check with the FBI and the authentication, it can just take months. So I cut that down by finding out that they now accept channelers.
Yes.
So you can shortcut your way into that process
What
and
state
cut
are you
your
in?
time. Pardon me?
What state are you in?
Washington.
Washington State. Okay.
Yeah. Because for us, we want to hit the ground running when we go in there, and we've talked to the recommended attorney that you guys had, and she said you do have to have that before you could open up a storefront. So
Right.
anyway, for those who are listening, I just thought I'd say it doesn't have to take as long as it looks online. It doesn't have to take 3 or 4 months. It can be, I think I'm going to have this wrapped up, and it will have taken me 2.5 weeks,
Well, God
probably.
bless you. That is amazing. That is,
So if you are getting a lot of requests from people who are overwhelmed with the information and getting discouraged, I'd be happy to send this along to you, and you can forward it.
well, thank you.
So we're going to be coming down on Friday, um, next Friday,
Mhm.
for our exploratory trip, but we're pretty sure this is for us. So anyway, I wanted to say that for anybody who's getting discouraged and trying to go through the the permanent visa process, it's not that bad, and I could probably make it easier for several people who are trying to get that same visa.
If you would, if you're willing to, throw your email address out there on the chat room so they can contact you if they have any questions. If you can do that, that would.
Sure, that would be fine.
It is
We'll
true that the FBI is taking almost 4 months now just to if you send it the regular channel, 4 months, but I think the channelers are getting it done in 3 to 5 days, and I
Yep.
think the fee is what, another $80 or something like that.
It is. It is pricier, but it's not that bad. I mean, all things considered, if what I'll do is when I respond to people, and I'll also send you guys something too, so you can just pop it out there when you get asked.
Thank you.
But some companies charge way more than other companies, and so I had to hunt around and do some research, but I found a couple of really good companies to work with. I found an express courier service that will apostille it for you in a couple of days and get it back for you, and
Wow.
just it's a great. I think that the government's just gotten, and FBI's gotten so overwhelmed. They said they're processing so many now that I think they finally allowed the the channel documents to be okay, and you can use the courier service, and that's the worst of it right there.
That's an amazing thing, if you're working for that government entity and you're finding all of your citizens are leaving, you're overwhelmed because everyone's, I wonder why they're all doing this and having them apostilled for Panama. What's going on?
Yeah, they said that there's such a huge amount now that are applying, and are getting kind of backlogged everywhere. So they've had to come up with creative ideas to take some of that pressure off the state agencies.
Yeah. Let me
And
make
this is just the beginning of the exits too. I mean, we're just in the
Oh,
very beginning stages. So if you think it's going to get any shorter, it's not. So I recommend, that if it reminds me of what Jesus said at one time, what you must do it quickly. I mean, if you know the Lord's saying something to you and calling you, don't just sit there and sit in fear, because really, people don't want to move, quote, they want to act in fear, but I think there's more fear keeping people from moving than it is the other way around. So, trust God. Trust God that if He's calling you out, take the step. And there's people that are God's, put us in a position to help people, and He's put it on our heart to help people. What we do here, I don't have any fees for anybody. I'm just trying to help people because I appreciate what God did for us by getting us out here and putting us and plugging us in place. But He said to me when we first left, He said that your obedience will pave the way for many. So I'm just trying to help others to fulfill their calling and destiny. If God's calling them out to leave, then He has a purpose for their leaving. There's a destiny, a divine plan that God is trying to orchestrate in our lives, and He's prepared us for such a time as this for a great harvest. I believe that's what it's all about. Is God's looking for us to serve Him and reap the harvest and reap the souls of the nations that are out there just waiting right now. The hearts are soft and tender here. They want to hear the gospel, and I believe that this is why the Lord is letting us leave so we can help Him reap the harvest.
Amen. And may I say this just as a quick note? I've heard some people that have got a little bit confused on their documentation. A federal document requires a federal apostille. In other words, your FBI background check needs to be apostilled by the State Department of State. and make sure that you say apostille it for the nation of Panama, because they have a few different apostilles, and you don't want them to stamp it for Uruguay and then have it rejected while you're in the process. So federal document, federal apostille, and make sure that that apostille is done for the nation of Panama. A state document has a state apostille. And praise God that if you've gotten that done in 2.5 weeks, that's wonderful.
Yes, yes, and it was a lot of work. I mean, because I had to do a lot of researching. So I'd love to save somebody else that time, and it's just as simple as following the steps and the links, and I'll put that out to people in an email, and I'm happy to do it. So yeah, we think now's the time.
Thank you.
Any other questions tonight? All right. Going once, going twice, going 3 times.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I've been listening in on this, and I definitely I'd like to get that email about the links and all that for the visa. First off, I appreciate what you guys are doing and the message. I've enjoyed listening tonight, and I think one of my friends has been challenging me, like, am I reacting out of fear or is it faith? And it's kind of made me, I don't know, it jarred me a little bit to really think, okay, is it a spirit of fear jarring me to read these scriptures because God's calling me to do something here? Or is it really faith, that God's calling me to step out of the country? So I feel like there's been a little bit of confusion, but I still feel some interest in, like, exploring this, maybe doing a visit. So that's one issue. And then the second issue is I was talking to my friend from Costa Rica, and he said there's a rainy season. And I'm wondering, like, is it something to the point where you're kind of trapped in your house for a couple months, or is it just hit and miss, or?
Andrew,
Can I? Sure, I'll answer that. Usually the rainy season, what happens is you have nice clear skies in the morning, and the clouds begin to come up the mountain during the daytime. In the initial part of the rainy season, you might get the storms start maybe around 3 in the afternoon. As it works more into the rainy season, into what we call the fall in the United States, it would be more maybe 1 or 2, or earlier in the afternoon. But it always clears up at night, and it's just a rain in the afternoon, and you just kind of have a place where you're hanging out in the afternoon when it's raining. It's not like the end of the world. It clears up. It's not like when you have these kind of storms maybe in the United States where it rains day after day after day. It's usually in the afternoon. By the early evening, it begins to taper off, and then the morning it's clear skies again, and that's kind of the cycle that it works. And the other thing I just want to share with you too, I had a friend that initially came here when we first moved here, and he really felt called, like he was, the Lord was saying, for us to leave the United States and come to Panama. He sold everything. He left, with his tools to be able to work construction work. He came here within about 2 months. He didn't see a job opening up for him. He still had enough money to live on. There wasn't a problem there, but he began to get nervous that his money was running out, and he used some of his money he had left over to purchase tickets to go back home. And later on, I was talking to him, and the Lord had me ask him a question. I said, "Now, because he was complaining about the fact that he was listening to True News and the things I was talking about, and he left in fear." And I said, "Well, wait a minute." I said, "Just hang on just a second." I said, "You sold everything. You came with only your tools and a trust in God that He was going to provide a way, okay? And then you went home because you saw your money begin to run out, and you're getting a little nervous whether you had enough." Now, say, which direction, where's the fear? When you came here or when you left? And so you need to really kind of think about when you're leaving someplace, leaving your comfort zone, leaving what Daniel talked about, just like Abraham, when you don't know a certain future for yourself. Is that leaving in fear or leaving in trust?
Hmm. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think for me, I've had a thing. I've been on this journey for a little bit while now, where I've lived in different states and kind of been moving, and so for me, I was just thinking, I don't want to be someone who's just wandering around. I definitely want to be where God wants me and moving in faith. So I hear what you're saying too. Like, it takes faith to move out there, and worst case scenario is if I were to visit or go out there and then didn't have peace, God didn't call me, then God could still move me where He
Certainly.
wanted.
Again, a ship that's sitting still in the harbor can't be steered, If you
Yeah.
feel like God's saying go, you start in a direction, and if it's not, then God will lead you to the next place, but you're trusting God, and that's what He's looking for. Are you willing to leave trusting me?
Hmm. Yeah. Cool. Did you guys, is there, as far as shipping stuff like tools and things that might be more challenging, like, is there a way to do that, or just do it through the
Absolutely.
picture airplane?
Absolutely. What you can do is a friend of ours that's working with me here, if you ever need to call us, Daniel just poked up the email. It's just boquete.help@gmail.com. His name is David. He brought back like 6 of these big totes that you can have kind of a hard tote, and he put all of his tools, chainsaws, you name it, and he just brought it on the airplane with him when he came down. He and his son went up to the States to clear out the rest of their things and just brought what they felt like they needed to for business purposes. And there's like 6 of these totes. They had all their tools and stuff and equipment that they needed. And they weighed about right at 50. He set them at 50 pounds apiece, to where they weren't over charged. And so,
Okay.
and that's what my friend did also when he left to come down here. He just put like 4 of these totes that he put all his tools in as well. So that's one way that you can do it and travel light at the same time.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, I appreciate you guys answering the questions and
You
talking.
bet.
It's great.
Remember also that He uses critical times to move His people, and it doesn't mean that it's not, there's not a freak out zone that happens in your
Yeah.
natural life. The apostles, He just told them, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, the uttermost parts of the earth, and they said, well, we got that Jerusalem thing down, and it's going so well here. I think we'll just put the other on hold. And He said, no, I don't think so. And before you knew it, Stephen is stoned in front of all of them, and they fled for their lives and preached the gospel around the whole known world in that generation. And but it took some heat. Some heat came down and some discomfort, and they had to kind of maybe lose their faith in their current location to get them on the move. And Stephen, the first great martyr, he was more used by God in that martyrdom to propagate the gospel around the world. So you look around the heat and the pressure and some of the stuff going on in our world. God is using that to mobilize His army and get His chess pieces in position for checkmate.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that story, it makes me think, like, if they had moved before that happened, then, you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe that's where we're at right now in the timeline. We have the opportunity to move before that heat is turned up even more. I mean, is that the way you guys are seeing it?
Amen.
Or,
Well, absolutely, absolutely. The Germans, in Germany, there was 3 classes of people: those that got out with their wealth, those that got out with their clothes on their back, and those that didn't get out at all. So really, if you leave early or you have a chance to get out with your resources, then you can start a business and you can do things, and you'll be the businesses that will be hiring people. If you finally get to that last second stage where you can get out and you may only have the clothes on your back, and then you'll be somebody else's employee. So I think it's be better to hear sooner and say that if the Lord's prompting you to move, at this point in time, you have the chance to get out with resources as well to start a business or whatever God chooses to use those things for. But I think the longer you wait, the less opportunities are available. And just like you're just listening to what it's taking to FBI background checks, without expediting them, you're just going to get into the wave of the rush to get out, and you may be at the back of the line.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, my friends, make sure that you don't try to judge this and time it. I hear a lot of Americans thinking just like they think they can judge the top or bottom of a stock market. Don't try to judge the top or the bottom, and don't say, well, I've got it all set. As soon as I got my bug out bag and my plane ticket, as soon as I see this happen, then don't do that. And I know a lot
Yeah.
of people listening have that in their mind, but the fact is, when the deal happens, it will be too late. You don't want to be a day late. It's been better to be 4 years or 5 years early than one day late on this deal.
And you got to remember also that the Lord closed the door of the ark 3 days before it began to rain. So if somebody was just waiting to see the rain before they tried to get on the ark, it would have been too late. So you have to leave by the word of the Lord speaking to you, not by what you see with your natural eyes.
Amen.
That's great.
Okay. All right. Any other questions before we call it an evening? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. All right. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Andrew, any final word before we close?
No, just look forward to the next week's topic. And again, Daniel, I think you have the ability, somebody can go back and listen to the previous topic that we had as well on legal immigration topics and things like that. But if you know people it would be helpful. I think Daniel put this up on YouTube, and if there's people that that would like to learn or listen to what you got the chance to hear live, that'll be available as well.
That's it, and we will have this up. We should have it up within 24 hours for those who missed or didn't catch it all. And we want to thank you. Next week, we are going to tackle how do you make money outside of the United States of America, different investment opportunities, different business opportunities that we see, not that we see that anywhere near all of them, but also bring your questions. Be thinking this week and check my Facebook, and then also if you're not on our email distribution list, get your email into us so that we can send you a quick note out. It will more than likely either be Tuesday or Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central that we do the next one. This next one's going to be a rock and roll. And I love business opportunities. I love talking about it, and there are so many here. We'll never get them all in next week's session. But we're going to try to give you a good shot and a good overview. All right, my friends, with that, we're going to say from Boquete, Panama, God bless you. May God lead you. May he instruct you. May he give you the grace and the capacity to go where he's going, to do what he's doing, to say what he's saying, and to be a blessing to all nations. We love you guys. We're thankful for you, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Email us or call. We'll do our best to get any further help or information to you that you need. God bless you, and good night.